Hey guys, so I'm gonna cover a topic in this video that I don't know. I would say a good portion of Christians are already familiar with, called the five love languages, um, and just gonna kind of give my thoughts on it, maybe give some examples, and maybe give some potential causes as to like what creates a love language in someone. Like why does that speak to their heart more than something else does, or whatever. So just doing my due diligence as I'm refreshing myself on stuff. So we're still kind of covering the basics. I was hoping to have like everything done by the end of August, but obviously that did not happen. So but I'd rather take my time and just kind of flow. So anyway, so the five love languages, and there are plenty of other videos on YouTube about this, although I don't know if they're gonna cover the causes maybe like I will, but whatever. Anyway, so five love languages. There is quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, and gifts. So, some of these are most of these, if not all of these, are self-explanatory, but gifts is obviously you're giving a gift to someone or you're receiving a gift from someone. Words of affirmation, self-explanatory. You are affirming someone. You're complimenting them on, how pretty they are, how handsome they are, what a great job they did, how proud of them you are, so on and so forth. Things like that. You're basically allocating, or really a better word would be attributing value to them in some way, shape, or form. Acts of service. Acts of service is, helping someone do something, like fixing a car, or sweeping the floor, or helping someone when they're sick, or, whatever. I'm kind of just going like a quick overview, and then maybe I'll go deeper. And then what else we have left? Quality time. Quality time is just hanging out. It's just hanging out with someone. It's just giving them your time, spending time with them. And, people could argue maybe as to, whether it's quality time or not, but, sometimes it's just nice to have company. Sometimes it's just nice to have someone just to talk to, or even not talk to, but just sit next to each other. I was reading a book or an article or whatever one time, and it gave this example of like there was like an old person, and I guess maybe something had happened, and they were they were going through a loss. They were grieving, mourning. Maybe their spouse died or something, and the old person was just kind of sitting there on the bench, and this little kid came over and just sat next to the old person, and like they didn't even speak a word to each other, but like just the fact that the little kid sat next to him just made him feel better, So like quality time can just be having that comfortable silence with someone of just like, I'm with you, I'm here, And then what else? There's one more I didn't cover. Oh, duh, physical touch. So physical touch is self-explanatory. It's affection, whether it's just like a simple putting your hand on someone's shoulder, such as like the workplace or church or something like that, or getting into gradual levels of intimacy. A hug, holding hands, an embrace. Maybe putting your hand on someone's thigh, and then of course husband and wife. There's the sexual intimacy. So what creates these love languages? Really that can be broken down into two categories. So in psychology, we have what's called positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. So positive reinforcement is when whatever it is that you're talking about, whatever behavior it's done, it's executed, it's performed, and it has a enjoyable effect. It makes it feel enjoyable, delightful. It's appealing. It makes you feel special. And then the negative reinforcement is, you know, maybe that's the one area that like you didn't receive that kind of behavior from, you know, your family of origin. Most of us, you know, there's the whole nature versus nurture thing. I really lean towards nurture, you know, your family of origin, which really just means like whatever human beings you were around as you were, you know, from the time you were born. You know, everyone has different family of origins. You could have been raised by your grandparents or your aunt and uncle, or maybe you were an orphan and you had foster parents, or whatever, you know. Whatever people you were around, they nurtured you or they didn't nurture you, you know. And so that is, that's how we are shaped and everything, and that's how these love languages are formulated. And so the negative reinforcement would be, like, for example, when I was growing up, my stepfather was in my life from the time I was about 3 years old on, and, you know, he would call me deaf, dumb, blind, and stupid. He would call me SHIT for brains, things like that. And so for a good portion of my life, I really felt special when someone would do the opposite, you know, when they would speak positive words, you know, speak life, as we say in Christian lingo. But then as I grew older, because I ended up, you know, getting involved with narcissists like my stepfather and my father and my mother and all four of my parents, really, I very quickly learned that, you know, talk is cheap, right? You know, like, people communicate all kinds of pretty positive words all the time and they don't mean them. Or it's evident that they don't mean them through their actions because their actions don't match their words. And so I have the book. It's buried somewhere. I went to go try to dig it out, but I'm not going to dig through everything to dig it out to show you guys. But if you just Google 5 Love Languages, you'll see it. It's a big purple book. But in the back of the book, there's like a little test you can take to see what your love language is. That can change. As you know, as life transpires and time goes on and you gain more experiences, your love languages can change or shift a little bit. You know, I used to have like more of like a higher score for words of affirmation, but like I said, as time went on, that score got lower and lower and lower because I realized like, oh, people just say whatever and their words are worthless because really you have to pay attention to their actions, you know. What else? Now, I mean, if I were to critique all 5 of them, you know, what I just said, you know, talk is cheap. Lots of people say stuff all the time. And, you know, yeah, you've got some people that are like, you know, narcissists. They're really evil, wicked, dysfunctional people, and they're broken and they're fractured and whatever. And those are the people that, you know, take that to the extreme of like, they'll lie through their teeth. You know, they'll look you in the eye and lie through their teeth and say whatever and blah, blah, blah. But then you've just got like the average sinner, the average human being. And what I've observed is that, you know, people lie like commonplace. Like, it's just like automatic. You know, I was just thinking about this earlier. There's an established prophetess on YouTube, and you know, she'll often start off her video by saying, oh, it's great to see you guys, and seeing you guys makes me feel good, and da-da-da. And I'm like, you know, technically she's lying. Like, she's right there. That's an example of lying, because she can't see her viewers. You know, like when we make these videos, you know, like all we see is ourselves or the camera, you know, like technically, like, so people lie all the time, you know. So there's my critique on words of affirmation. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, obviously people can say things and very, very sincerely, genuinely mean what they're saying, and that just comes from the relationship, the pattern of interaction, of getting to know that person, of, you know, do you know their character? Do you know them to be a person of their word and keep their word and mean their word? You know, like for me, you know, like I'm not perfect. None of us are, and we all misspeak sometimes. But I can tell you, like, for myself, like 98% of the time, like, I mean what I say, and I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. So it's like, if I say something and it stings, I probably meant it. Or if I say something and it really makes you feel great, I probably meant it, you know, like, very rarely do I say things that I don't mean, but I am more of the minority from my observation anyway. So that's words of affirmation. Physical touch, you know, physical touch can also be not such a great indication, depending, because a lot of people can just, you know, everything boils down to people's motives, and just because someone holds your hand or puts their hand on your shoulder or has sex with you, or not that you should be having sex outside of your God-ordained marriage, but you know what I mean. Like, people have selfish motives or whatever, and people can be fake and pretentious, and, so just a word of caution with that as well. Quality time. People do tend to be more selfish with their time. So if someone's giving you their time, I would take that more seriously, Just, and these are just my observations of just human beings, but I'm not saying there's a hard and fast rule, because there isn't, Everyone's different, everyone has different experiences, and everyone has different, character and motives and everything. But overall, from my observation of the human race, if someone gives you their time, that's a good indication that, you obviously have some value. That, or you've got something that they want from you. So again, it does come down to motive. What else is left? Acts of service. Acts of service, again, I think that's a really good indication. So either they value you just for you, or there's something that they want from you. But, one of the things, the two main loves of my life, my adult life, was my ex-husband, and then my ex that I reference all the time, that I've been in and out of communication here in Colorado with the last 6 years. I have to say that, like, one of the things that I always appreciated about both of them was the acts of service. They would always be willing to, like, work on my car, or just help me with a project, like help me do stuff, or things like that. Overall, usually, again, this is my opinion, my observation, but overall, people don't really give you their time, never mind, like, help you do something, like, work on a project, or your car, or help you do chores, or run your errands with you, or, whatever. So if someone's willing to do that, that's probably a good indication that they value you. Again, unless there's some kind of ulterior motive. You always have to just take everything on a case-by-case basis. I feel like I'm forgetting one. We did physical touch, quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation. And what is the other one? Physical touch, quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation. Oh, yeah, gifts, right. So, gifts. So here's what I do want to say on gifts. Up until just maybe recently, I always looked at the love language of gifts as very questionable and shallow and superficial. But I just had a conversation with my ex, because I was kind of like interviewing him on this, because I did just kind of realize that the Holy Spirit just kind of told me that his love language is gifts. And so I was kind of like interviewing him. I'm like, so, like, why do you think your love language is gifts? So we kind of like analyzed it. And so, like, using him as an example, like, he came from a very, very broken home, alcoholic parents, so on and so forth. And so his love language of his, like, main love language of gifts was both reinforced positively and negatively. So he witnessed his parents always spending money on alcohol, always going out to the bar, basically being irresponsible with money, instead of maybe, honoring their children with gifts on, like, their birthday or Christmas or something like that. There was also at least one incident with his father where his father, like, took gifts that he had given him back. Like, I think he said he came home one day and his father had, like, sold something that he had given to him previously as a gift or whatever, so that he could go buy alcohol or whatever it was. And then on a positive note, it's like, because his parents so rarely, made a fuss over the children, when they did make a fuss and give them gifts, it was like a very, very special ordeal. you know. So I just want to kind of advocate and defend people that maybe have the love language of gifts. Like, don't necessarily jump to the conclusion that they're shallow or superficial. Look at their family of origin, look at their upbringing, you know. That may be well, odds are it probably is why their love language is what it is, just as it is for the rest of us. So I just want to throw that out there. And actually, on that topic, there's a song by Mary J. Blige, and I forget what song it is, but in the song, all she keeps like saying in the song is like, buy me gifts, stop and buy me something. And when I heard that years ago, I was like, wow, that is so like superficial of her. But you know, I don't know her full life story or whatever, but my impression is that, you know, she grew up kind of poor and whatever, and probably came from like a broken home, and so it's probably similar to my ex, you know, like, so we can't judge people for what their love languages are, you know, like each of us has something that makes us feel special, and we need, you know, and if you really love the person, then you'll honor that, and you'll respect that and accept that, and you know, try to cater how you express your love for them in the way that really speaks to them. So I just wanted to cover that real quick. The next video I'm going to do is most likely going to be the 5 languages of apology, and I'm probably going to do it more as a critique, and I'm going to put my own advice in the mix, which to me makes a lot of sense, but that'll be that'll be the next video. So just covering this for the sake of covering it. Like I said, there's lots of other videos on this topic, articles, and the book, obviously, and you know, there's other resources, but you know, maybe if you want to try to really strengthen your relationships with, you know, your family, with your loved ones, with your friends, actually, let me rephrase that. You should be trying to strengthen your relationship with your family and friends. We are about to enter the tribulation here in September of 2020, and relationships are going to be a major factor for survival. You know, us, I mean, well, especially us Christians need to stick together and everything, and so now is the time to be strengthening relationships, repenting, apologizing, making amends, so on and so forth. And so a good place to start, I mean, with all the other resources I give you guys on this channel, this is just another tool in your tool belt. You know, recognize, figure out what your own love language is, figure out what, you know, your spouse, your children, whoever it is that is in your life, you know, figure out what their love language is. That way you can start, you know, connecting on a deeper level and making each other feel loved more, and because that plays a major factor psychologically, which is going to be a major you know, strength to have when it comes to survival when the crap starts hitting the fan. So alright, so that's that, and next I will cover the 5 languages of apology. Alright, I bless you all in Jesus' name.